Hi everyone, welcome to AWS Data Engineering Training Program. And as part of this training, today we'll be talking about S3 service of AWS. So S3 is basically simple storage solution. On a very high level, I would say this is a storage service from AWS where you can maintain your input and output data. In yesterday's class, while talking about a different type of permissions, AWS managed policies, customer managed policies, read only, full access, we talked a little bit about S3. But today's class is fully dedicated for S3 concepts. And not only today's class, even tomorrow's class is also dedicated for S3. So let's start the class with the agenda. So we'll be starting with overview of S3 service, creating a bucket, data security and encryption, upload objects into bucket, data versioning, and S3 storage classes. This is the agenda for today's class, and some more advanced topics about S3 we will be covering in tomorrow's class. So let me open my browser because instead of going through the slides, I will rather show you everything on my trial account. So I will be logging in, and you remember yesterday we enabled MFA, multi-factor authentication, for my account. So it will be asking for one MFA code as well. It's for account security, so I'm entering that code. uh, that code is coming from a mobile app, so I'm just entering that, and I should be able to log in into my AWS console. Okay, that's good. The page is open from yesterday's class, that is IAM, but I will move to S3. So you can see that S3, let's open it. So S3 is equivalent to, you can say, just like Google is offering a cloud storage, similarly AWS is also offering a cloud storage named S3. The very first thing we need to do here is creating a bucket. As we discussed a little bit yesterday, that bucket is basically, you can say that, first of all, it's unique, and inside the bucket you can keep your data. You can create any folder, any subdirectories, you can put your data, everything over there, but you need to create one bucket first. So let's do that. I will click on create bucket. So you can see this, whatever bucket you would like to create. One is general purpose, another one is directory. This is a new concept. For most of the scenarios, general purpose bucket are good. And bucket name, it should be unique, so you can provide some meaningful name. I would say my first first S3 bucket, and I will give some random number to make it unique. Let me try 937. After that, copy settings from existing bucket, optional. No, we do not have any existing bucket. We are creating our first bucket, so we cannot do that. Otherwise, there are a lot of settings. I will show you shortly. All those settings, suppose you have already done for one bucket, and if you create another bucket, you can directly copy. It's like yesterday when we were creating a user, it was giving us the option to copy the permission from an existing user. Same thing is here. So we'll be moving to the next one. The next one is object ownership. So when you are creating an object are nothing but files. When you are uploading files into S3, who will be the owner? By default, I will tell you two scenarios. By default, whoever is the owner of the bucket, that should be the owner, right? That makes sense. That's one way. Another way is, sometime, suppose I am giving flexibility to other team that okay, you guys can write data into my bucket, and ownership also it will be with you. That means whoever is writing the data into the bucket, they will hold the ownership. The benefit is, if someone holds the ownership, they have the permission to even delete the file. Sometimes what we do is we have single bucket, and inside that we create multiple folders, and different teams use those folders. So I would like to give the permission to individual team that you guys can read the data, you can guys can write the data, you hold the ownership of the object. The bucket ownership is still with me. Whether I want to delete the bucket or not, that's completely under my control, but within individual folder, you guys have the full control to delete the files from there. So this is about object ownership, and we'll be going with the first one, that is ACL disabled recommended. We will go with that only. So let's move to the next one. As you know that there are a lot of settings related to S3 bucket. So moving to the next one, block public access setting for this bucket. Even if your personal Google Drive, right, that's not publicly accessible until or unless you are making some settings change. You can put your personal things and it's completely secure. But suppose you are putting something which you want to make it publicly available. For example, I have shared the recordings with you. I have shared the detailed course content with you that I have put into my Google Drive, and that is publicly available. So that I have changed the setting. Otherwise, apart from these recording and detailed course content, I have much more in my Google Drive which is not publicly shared. So similarly, you can do here, and you will notice that the default setting is block all public access. That means by default, it will make sure that none of your files, none of your data is publicly exposed, and that's a good thing, right? But in some special cases, suppose you are planning to host a website on S3. You may be thinking like, can S3 host a website? Because S3 is a stay storage. Yeah, that's a valid question, but that's possible. In tomorrow's class, I will show you how S3 can be used to host a static website. And in that case, you need to uncheck this box. Because if you want to make some website, means people from outside will be accessing that website. That means you cannot block public access. So only in some special scenario, we will be unblocking it. Otherwise, let's keep the public access blocked so that your data is safe and secure. Okay. So I'm stopping here because there are a lot of other settings, and every setting is important. You need to understand like what is the purpose of that particular setting. So I'm stopping here for 2 minutes. In case you are having any doubt, you can ask me.
Sir, is this S3 is only for the storage purpose, or is there anything that we can do with this?
No, only for storage, only for storing your input data or output data. That means if your input data is stored, then you can read the data. And after processing, after doing your data analytics, the final output you would like to write back into S3. So ultimately, data is stored in the S3. That's the only purpose it fulfills.
It means like you, as you suggest. I mean, like mentioned, like Google Drive. Like we have been using Google Drive for storing the images, files, videos, and everything. The same concept, sir.
Yes, correct, right. Okay, so any other doubt? Mahesh, sorry, Sandeep. Otherwise, we'll be moving to the next setting.
No doubts.
Okay, that's good.
No, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Let me move to the next slide then. The next is bucket versioning. So usually we put some data, and if suppose you want to replace the data, suppose tomorrow you are uploading a new file. So by default, that will be uploading. Sorry, that will be replacing your existing data. But sometime in some special scenarios, it may be possible that I would like to keep the, you can say, duplicate versioning data as well. That means I would like to maintain the history. So in that case, we can enable the data versioning. So I'm enabling it so that I can show you how does it work. So just give me a moment. One guy is asking for a meeting link. Just hold on. So data versioning, bucket versioning we have enabled. The next one is tags. Tags are always optional. Yesterday also we talked about. But in case you want to add something for any non-technical purpose, like this bucket is used for what purpose, and what type of data it maintains, some non-technical details if you want to maintain, that you can do. Moving to the next setting, encryption. I hope you understand what encryption means. So keeping your data as it is on the on any storage, that's not a good idea. Because if someone get to know about your username or password, or somehow they get access to your data, in that case your data is not secure. But we will not keep the data unencrypted. That means we will be storing the data in an encrypted fashion. It's like when you are on a secure website, if you're typing like username and password, these are always sent in an encrypted fashion. That means if some intermediate guy, some hacker, if they came to know about your username and password, that will not be the actual username and password. Those are encrypted. So actual password will be converted into a long alphanumeric code, and that's not making any sense. So similarly, you have the flexibility that you can keep your data in a secure way. And there are different type of encryption mechanism. The first one is server side encryption. There are two ways: either you encrypt your data by yourself, that is your headache, and then you put the encrypted data into S3. That's one possibility. Another possibility is that in case you don't want to get into those encryption things and all, in in that case what you will do is you will simply upload the data into S3, and S3 has its own mechanism of encrypting your data. That's what the first option is selected: server side encryption with Amazon S3 managed key. Apart from that, other ways: server side encryption with AWS key management service, KMS. KMS is one of the service in AWS which is specifically you can say used for encryption purpose. Since we are in very initial stage of training, we haven't talked about KMS service. But yes, that's part of our training program. That means in upcoming weeks, you can even check the course content. In upcoming weeks, there will be a separate class for KMS. We'll be exploring that over there. But as of now, to understand, simply understand that this option will be making your data secure. Okay, and that's all. These are the few settings, and I will click on create bucket. Okay, so my bucket has been created, and you can see the name here: my first S3 bucket hyphen 937, and AWS region. Because there's a concept of regions in AWS. If you look at the right upper corner, this is my AWS account name, training underscore dev, and North Virginia, that is your AWS regions. So basically, AWS has set up its servers, you can say data centers across the globe. If you would like to check, right, I will show you. You simply go to Google and you type AWS region live map. Yeah, that's good. It will show you in which different countries where exactly AWS is maintaining its data centers and all. So I am opening it for you, and you can see that in Europe, by default they have opened Europe. Let's start with America. Okay, North America. So you see this one. This is Canada. This one is Oregon. This one is other California and all other stuff. Canada Central. Similarly, if you go to Asia Pacific, let's look about if any server in India. Yes, there are two. One is Mumbai and one is Hyderabad. Yes, correct. Hyderabad was launched in 2022, just 2 years back, and Mumbai, it was launched like you can see that 2016, long back. And if you look at other things, this one red one, right? Thailand coming soon. This one Malaysia coming soon. This green should be Singapore. Yeah, Singapore launched 2010. Okay, so this way you can see that where in which countries AWS is managing its data centers. And one more thing you can notice here is that every data center, they have one more thing: availability zones 3. What does it mean? Availability zone means, as yesterday we talked about, that AWS maintains duplicate copies of data, so that by any region, by any natural calamity or any other region, if data is lost or one of the site is down, they can provide you the duplicate copy of data from a different location. So availability zones 3 means they are maintaining 3 copies of your data. If you check in Mumbai, it's like availability zones 3 and local zones 2. There's a concept of local zones as well. You can explore more on that. So different type of availability options are there and they will be charging it accordingly. If you will check for America, right, you will find more availability zone. They have something like 5 availability zones, 6 availability zones as well. This is 3. Okay. You see that availability zone 4, local zone 7, wavelength zone 5. And this one, Canada 3, 3. Mexico coming soon. Okay, so we will have a separate class on these regions and availability zones and all. We'll throw more light on that. But just to give you a brief overview, that whenever you are creating any service, not only S3, any service you are creating, you have to make sure that you are creating in the region uh, which is near to you. Basically, you should create over there which is near to you. Otherwise, suppose your entire user base is in US and you are creating a bucket in Mumbai region, that's not good. I mean, it will work, but there will be some latency because people from US will be accessing something from your bucket which is located in Mumbai. That's not a good idea. So make sure that wherever your users are, wherever your most of the services are, you should create the service in that particular region. So you can click on this drop down and you will find lot of options here. So US East, US West, Asia Pacific, Europe, Africa, all these things you can find and you can choose accordingly. Okay. So I'm stopping here for 2 minutes. Any doubt till now, you can ask me. So Anil, you joined little bit late. Basically, we started this training on our app 2 days back, but somehow due to some technical challenges, we have to use this one. So last two classes, one class was demo, and yesterday we talked about one of the service that is IAM. So I will share the recording with you, and you should be able to watch that, or you might have explored that on the app also. Did you get a chance to go through the recording of last two classes, Anil? Okay, so let's move to the next thing. Next thing is we will see how to upload the data into the bucket. It's quite easy, just like you upload anything into Google Drive, same thing we can do here. So I will click on upload and simply select some file from your local system. That's all. I will go to my downloads folder and I have some sample data, sample employee data.csv. So I'm selecting that and I will click on open. That's all. And after that you can click on upload. That's all. So your file will be uploaded into S3. Since my file is quite small, you can notice that my file upload has been completed. It's done now. Okay. So I can close this and you can see this. Sample employee data.csv is my file name. Type is CSV. Last modified today only, 20th of June, 6:55. Just now. 407 bytes is the size and storage class is standard. What is storage class? I will be exploring. I will be explaining shortly. Okay. So this way you can upload the file. And I was talking about one more scenario like versioning of data, right? That means I can upload this file again. Let me make some changes in this file. So what I will do is I will be suppose opening my notepad and I will be opening that file. It was in downloads folder. Sample data employee data.csv. Open it. Okay, so this is my data, you can see here. And if you want to make some changes, I can try that. I will copy these two lines and I will paste it again. I may change something like employee ID 11, employee ID 12. Okay, That's fine. I'm just updating that file. And now what I can do is I can try uploading the same file once again. Since we have enabled the bucket versioning, that means it will not overwrite your existing file. Rather, it maintains both the versions. So I will click on add files and I will select the same file again. Sample employee data.csv and open. Click on upload and file has been copied. Okay, perfect. So now you can see here that it's displaying the file, but it's displaying a single file only, not two files. Because file name is same, that's why it's displaying a single file. But you can see a small button here, show versions. Click on that and you can see both the versions along with date and time. So the older version that was 655 around 2 minutes back, the size was 407 bytes. After that we added some new lines, so size will change. You can see that. The latest file is 477 bytes and the last modified time is 657. So this way on the UI you can access different versions. You can try uploading one more time, it will display three versions. And not only from UI, even programmatically. Suppose you are writing a Java code, Python code, any command line. I mean, there are many ways to achieve something. Even if you are reading this data from some programming method, even that gives you the flexibility that first you list how many versions are available for that file along with the date and time. And after that, whichever version you would like to read. If you want to go with the latest one, you can do that. But in case there is any requirement that you would like to go with a like a older version, even you can do that. Suppose I want this older version. Suppose on my local I modified the file and I uploaded the file on my S3. So from my local it's not possible to go back to the older file because now I have saved the file. But you can go to S3 and suppose you want to download this file, right? The older version. So select this. Give me a moment. Why I'm not able to select? Just give me a moment. There is some issue. Okay. So you can notice that I have selected the file, the older version basically, and then it will give you the option of download. So you can do that. It's quite easy. And you can do many more stuff. If you want to open this file, you want to download this file, or you want to delete this version, or more actions, click on that, and you can find this. Download as, share with a pre-signed URL, calculate total size, and many more stuff are there. Usually, we are uploading the file, that means we are writing the data or we are reading the data. These are the major operation we perform on S3 files. Okay. Sorry. So I'm stopping here again for 2 minutes. Anyone is having any doubt? So, Anil, are you able to talk? I think last time you tried and you were facing some issue. You can unmute yourself and you can ask in case you have any doubt.
Yeah, as of now, no doubts. I mean, I cope up with the recordings. I'm fine with that. So I have watched the recordings
Okay,
last two classes.
that's great. I would like to know that only,
Yeah,
that are you following the recordings or not? Okay, that's good.
yeah, yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay, then we are good. Let me come back to the
Uh,
slide.
I have a one doubt, sir.
Yeah, yeah,
May
please.
I ask one doubt?
Sure, go ahead.
So, for example, if we change, we are selected now North Virginia in the storage. In between, if you want to change the region, then is it possible to change the region
No,
in
you
between?
cannot do. No, once the resources has been created, you cannot do that. Maybe what you can do is you
Okay.
create another bucket in a different region and then you can try copying the data. That's possible, but moving the bucket itself is not possible.
Okay. Sir, any limitations on the S3 storage, sir? Like file storage, like what type of storage that we store? Any
Anything,
limitations on the S3?
anything you can do. I think there is some limit on the size of one single file, and that's quite high. I think some 5 GB or something. Single file, some limit is there. Otherwise, total there is no limit. You can put as many files as big as you want, but definitely it will be chargeable. We are under a free limit, so I think 5 GB is allowed. So we are good for a trading point of view. But in real time scenario, when you are working in a real project, there can be bigger data and they will be charging accordingly. And even charges are as per the storage class, which haven't talked yet. I will be explaining now. Depending upon your requirement, there are different storage classes available and charges are different. So there is a lot of flexibility as per your however you like it, right? You can use it.
And we can access the data from anywhere of the location, right, sir?
Ye-
Like
Anywhere.
we load the data in we are at Mumbai, like for example, like we can access the data from Hyderabad also. We can access the
Yes,
data
yes.
from anywhere location.
And you can access it. The only thing is where exactly it's like, suppose you would like to go for a gym. So maybe you will look for the gym which is near to your home. That would be easy for you to commute, right? Even if you are booking a gym which is quite far from your home, you can book it, you can go there. No one is stopping you, but that would be consuming a lot of time. Same thing is here. If your user base is US based, better to create a bucket in US. That will give a smoother experience, faster experience to your users. If you are creating a bucket in Hyderabad or Mumbai, even that will work, but that will not give that faster experience. That's the only difference.
Understood, sir. Understood, sir. Thank you.
Okay, that's good. So I'm coming back to slide. I will be sharing the slide later after the class so that you guys can refer it. So all these things we have talked about. Next is storage classes.
So there was one more encryption is there in the encryption storage. There was one more option is there. We have
Right.
not
So
covered that.
okay, I will tell you. So as I said, like we will have a separate dedicated class for encryption, and we'll talk not only those 3 points, much more about encryption in that class.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about storage classes. So storage classes are basically nothing but different categories of storage. Different category means it's not about quality, it's about how frequently you would like to access your data. If your data is quite something which you will be accessing multiple times a day, then you keep in a different storage class because that is more chargeable. But sometimes you say that I don't want to delete my data because I may need it, but I don't need it right away. Keep it in some archive. In that case, S3 will manage your data in a different storage, and the good part is they will be charging lesser. So there are different storage classes. We'll talk about all one by one. The very first, standard, that is the default one. That means when you are creating a bucket, we did not choose the storage class, right? Because if you are not changing it, the default is standard only. And I'm telling you, I'm working on AWS from last 6 to 7 years, starting from 2017. From last 7 years, I'm working on AWS different projects. And to be frank, I never used any other storage class apart from standard. But from a knowledge point of view, from an interview point of view, and sometimes even suppose client says you are working with some client and client says, okay, uh, I think we are paying more for storage and I don't need all this data immediately. Can you do something? Can we do something on to save the cost? That at least you should know. Using it or not is a secondary part. Knowing should be the first point. You should know five. I mean suppose client is telling you some problem, you should have multiple options. You say, okay, you do this, you can do this, you can do that. There are pros of this approach, there are cons of that approach. After that, you and client can decide, okay, considering the complexity, considering the cost, considering the maintenance, considering the performance, we will go with this approach. So as a developer, you should have multiple options and you should be knowing in and out pros and cons of that approach. Similarly, here you should know what are different other storage classes available. So we talked about standard, and there is an intelligent tiering. I'm skipping it, and I will tell you why I'm skipping it. We'll explain it at the end. Jumping to the next one, standard IA. IA stands for infrequent access. That means you want to maintain the data, you don't want to delete it, but you are not accessing it very frequently. And you can see the description as well. Infrequently accessed data once a month with millisecond access. You may request one time, two time in a month, not every day, but whenever you will ask, AWS should provide this data immediately. That's why they are mentioning millisecond access. This is known as standard IA. And there is one more category, one zone IA. In this upper one, they are maintaining your data into three different regions. just to make your data more available. I mean, so that in case one location is down, they can immediately provide you the data from your alternate location. But since AWS is maintaining your data in three different locations, definitely it's charging to you. You may say that, okay, why do we need three copies? I'm okay with one copy. And I will tell you why. Usually the data which I can produce, for example, I got some input data from some source, from another team, and I did some analysis on that, I did some processing on that, and I generated output. Now this output, right, this output is something which I can reproduce if required. I can do my processing again, and I can again produce it. So maybe as a team, you can say team manager, or as a admin, I may think, okay, do we really need to maintain three copies of this output data? Input is fine because I don't want to take any risk, but output is something which I can reproduce if required. Only in rare cases, if required, I can reproduce my data, I mean, I can reprocess my data with the help of input data, and I can produce the output again. So you are explicitly saying that please do not maintain three copies, rather please maintain only one copy. I'm okay with it. Definitely it will be less chargeable. There is small risk of 1% that in case that one region is down, you can see this availability zones. If you are maintaining the data in one availability zone, and unfortunately that one availability zone is down, you will not be able to access your data. But you have the flexibility to reproduce, to reprocess and regenerate. So you can do that. So the very first word is most important, recreatable. Something which you can recreate. Infrequently access data once a month, stored in a single availability zone with millisecond access. So basically, AWS is providing you different options. It's completely up to you. Depending upon your project requirement, depending upon your budget, you can choose one. Okay. So any doubt till this one zone IA? Otherwise, I will be moving to the next category, that is Glacier Instant Retrieval. Okay, seems like there is no doubt. So the next one is Glacier Instant Retrieval. When we say Glacier means basically we are maintaining like archive data, the data which I don't need right away, neither I will be using. I mean, I will be needing it in next 1 month or next few months. Rather, I will look for few years. In that case, long-lived archive data accessed once a quarter with instant retrieval in milliseconds. So you can go with this. There is some few more settings are there, like availability zones greater than equal to 3, because every region, whether it's Mumbai, Hyderabad, US, Europe, anything, minimum 3 availability zones are there. But few regions are even more availability zones, 5 6 like that. That's why they are saying 3 or more than 3. Moving to the next category. Till Glacier we talked about, the next one is Glacier Flexible Retrieval. So now I will tell you, archive data is stored. That means you don't need it right away. But whenever you will need it, after 2 years, after 3 years, when you will ask for it, would you, are you okay to wait for a few minutes? It all depends upon your requirement. If you say no, I cannot wait for minutes. I want my data immediately within seconds. In that case, you go with Glacier Instant Retrieval. You can see this one. Long archive data accessed once a quarter with instant retrieval in milliseconds. But if you're okay to wait for a few minutes, you can go with flexible retrieval. Data is same, but you can see that once accessed once a year with retrieval of minutes to hours. And one more is there, Glacier Deep Archive. That will definitely take some hours. That means if you ask AWS, okay, I want this data which I stored few years back, I want this my data now, you have to wait for some time, because they may be putting the data into magnetic tapes or some external hard drives maintaining somewhere else, because you are paying less for it, right? So they are maintaining at a different location, different medias, and in order to bring the data back, they need few hours. If you're okay with it, go with that. It will be less chargeable. If you say, okay, money is not the issue, but whenever I will ask, I need my data immediately, then you can pay more for it. It's completely up to you. Okay. One more is there, reduce redundancy. So non-critical, frequently accessed data with millisecond access, and At the same time, you can notice that it is saying not recommended as S3 standard is more cost effective. There is no point. I mean, redundancy means maintaining the duplicate copies. Either you want to maintain duplicate copies or you do not want. You do not want, go with this one John IA. And if you want, then you go with the standard one. So this is all about different type of storage class. And you may be thinking one is still left, which we did not discuss. You know why we did not discuss? Because after talking about all these storage classes, you may be getting confused. Like, I don't know which one I should use. Because when I started my project last week, suppose, I don't have any idea what size of data I will be processing, or will I be accessing my data once a day or twice a day or once a quarter or once a year. I have literally no idea. If you are confused, the very simple solution is intelligent tiering. As the name indicates, intelligent tiering is basically, it will understand your pattern. That means it will change the classes automatically. It's like a gearless car. If you are not comfortable with the gear, the car one, right? In that case, you go with gearless car, and in that case, as per the situation, as per the traffic, as per the condition, it will automatically switch. Same thing is here. You start your project, maybe in the beginning you are accessing your data multiple times a day, so it will keep standard class. After few months, it will automatically figure out that there is some data, there are few files which are you are not accessing at all. It will keep the data into archive, so it will be less chargeable. So these type of decision it will automatically take. So you can see that data with changing or unknown access pattern, either the pattern is changing, maybe someone is asking you that, okay, would you are you accessing your data one multiple times a day or once a month or once a quarter? Then he or she may say, okay, right now I'm accessing multiple times a day, but after 1 month I may not access the data. So my data access pattern is changing, or I'm not even aware, I don't know how my project will go in upcoming weeks and how, what type of access pattern it will be. In such cases, you simply go with intelligent tiering. Okay, so that's all about today's class. So as I said yesterday, this is the first week of training, and I usually keep the first week little light so that you guys can get comfortable. Maybe next week onwards, the second week of training onwards, the things will be like more practical stuff, and the classes will go for the entire 1 hour. And if someone is facing an issue, the class can even go longer than that. But usually we take doubts. I mean, doubts we can take in between the classes also. But if someone is facing any issue and they want to share their screen, that usually we do after the class, so that we are not taking everyone's time. But you are always most welcome to stay after the class, share your screen, and we can look into that issue. Okay, so any doubt in today's class, you can ask me.